In today's video, we are going to talk about how to start building guitars. There are some things that I feel we can discuss on how to get started with this hobby so that hopefully you'll have a way to get into it that feels like a easy way in, that doesn't take too much and is, too much in the way to get over, so that it's a pleasant experience and so that you feel like this isn't, something that is impossible to do, that, only a master woodworker can do, but actually something that anyone can learn. Which is what I think it is. I don't think that guitar building is something that, you have to be this super amazing builder to be able to do. Obviously, the better you are at working with hand tools and things like that, the better. But we all start somewhere, and I would love for people to start doing this and work with building guitars because it's so much fun. And if I can help you start today and not wait another year or however long you've been dreaming of doing this, then I think this is awesome. So this is my introduction to how I would have done this if I was starting out new today, and hopefully it will help you. Let me know in the comments below if it does. But there is one thing we have to talk about first, just to get out of the way, because I've spoken about this a couple of times before, and I always feel like there is a misunderstanding with someone in the comments below, someone who gets mad at me for being mean-spirited. So I just quickly want to try to explain this again, and that is kit guitars. If you want to build a kit guitar, perfectly fine. You don't need to have my permission to do that or anything like that. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to build a kit guitar or that you're lazy or anything like that. Absolutely nothing like that at all. I've built a lot of kit guitars. Some you have seen, some you haven't seen. Some have been for friends, and some have been because I just want a simple, easy Strat, and instead of, putting all the work needed to build the guitar, I thought, well, I can just do it with a kit and it will be done over the weekend and I will have it. And because it's not something super complicated that I want, I don't necessarily need to make it from scratch. So I have absolutely no problem at all with people building kit guitars, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it or anything, but I don't think that kit guitars really fall into the category of building a guitar. To me, building a guitar is about shaping wood. I know some of you have ideas about if wood matters or not, but if you're going to build guitars, you have to think about the wood a lot, because 90% or 99%, somewhere between there, of all guitars you're going to make are wood. There are very few people who are building guitars that are making them out of something else. There are other things you can build them out of, and if you want to experiment with that, just go ahead and do that. I'm not trying to stop you, but learning to work with wood is not what you're going to learn from putting together a kit guitar. You're going to learn more things that has to do with assembling a guitar, or maybe keeping the guitar up to its standards, setup and things like that. And those things are very good to learn, and they are also a part of building guitars. I'm not saying that learning how to wire a guitar isn't a part of learning how to build a guitar. There's so many steps in building a guitar, but a lot of the things that are a part of building the guitar are actually sort of falling out of place with this. I hope you understand what I'm trying to get at. I'm not trying to discourage anyone from kits, but to me, learning how to shape wood and learning how to work with wood and understanding it as a material is what you need to do in order to build guitar. I maybe one day, if you want me to, will do a how to get started in repairing guitars, because I think that there are two different categories, and you could start with one and it would lead into the other, or you could want to do both, but to me they're two different separate things. If you're watching this hoping that my how to start building guitar video is going to go in on how to start repairing, it's not. This is going to be a completely different thing, because to me they're two different things. And I started building guitars and then later I started repairing guitars. I think you can be one without the other. If you think that I should make a video on how to start preparing guitars, I could definitely make that. It would be a completely different journey and a completely different thing, and we would talk about something different basically. But I just wanted to put that out there so that there is no misunderstandings, because I've spoken about this a little bit in other videos, not to the extent that I'm doing right now here. And there is always someone who is a little bit angry at me for saying that kits are bad, or that they are just toys for kids or something like that. And I just want to explain that that's not what I'm saying. This is not about how to fix a crack in the finish on the neck. This is about how to reshape a piece of wood into a neck. Blank pieces of wood like this one, and actually make it into something more than just this. The first thing that is always a problem with starting is tools. Now, some tools you're just gonna have to buy, like a router. There's no way getting around it. You're gonna need those tools, and there's not really anything you can do about it. You're just gonna have to go and buy them. But there is a bunch of tools that you can actually make yourselves. If you've been subscribed for a while, you know that I have a series called Guitar Builder's Life Hack. There's a bunch of videos about tools you can make yourself. And I would strongly encourage you to watch those videos. I understand that I talk about them a lot, but I truly believe, I honestly do believe that they are great things. Most of them are tools that I've been using for years. Some of them I've been using for 10 years. So if you're looking at them and you think, oh, well, he's just showing us things that he's quickly thrown together. Yes, some of them are quickly thrown together in the sense that I don't need them to be pretty, because I just need them to do a job. And if they break or anything like that, I can either just repair them and not care about how they look, or I can just throw them in the bin and make a new one. But I strongly believe that you should make some of your own tools, because buying them online from people who supply tools, you know all that those tools can be really expensive. And most of those are actually just tools that they have bought and just modded a little bit or something like that, and then they sell them at a premium to you. You can just skip them and do the modding yourself. And it's a great way to learn how to do some of the more basic things. For example, here is a file, and I used this to round over frets, and all I had to do was make sure that I grinded one of these flat sides so it's smooth and straight. It's a little bit hard maybe to see, but it's basically just a triangle file, and one side is smooth, so when it goes up next to the fret on the fretboard, it's not cutting into the wood. It honestly, except the fact that I made my own handles for it, it honestly just took a couple of seconds to grind this down on my belt sander. We're not talking about something extremely hard to do, and it's a good way to get into working with things. Other things like super tiny little chisels that you can't buy anywhere else. I made this one, and I'm hesitant to tell you this. I don't know if I've ever said it before, but I did this because I bought Crimson Guitars tiny little inlaid chisels, and they were just so horribly bad that I felt like the only way I can get these small kind of chisels is by making them myself. And I would say that the ones I make, they're not 100% better, they're thousands of percent better than what I bought. Not trying to be mean or anything like that, that's just truth. I recently made a video where I made this tool to open up a pedal that was being really weird. That's another thing that's really good. You can mod tools, you can make your own tools, and you can also see when you have a tool that is not performing exactly what you need, or when you need a specialized tool, you can make it instead of trying to look around on the internet to find a weird obscure thing. Super tiny little file glued to a piece of wood so that I can move it over like this and do spot leveling. Again, super easy. You just need to find a file that you like and that is straight and glue it to a piece of wood that is also straight. Same thing here, new handle on a chisel. Actually, didn't make this handle, it's from one of the Crimson Guitars tools that was just not good enough to keep. Same thing here, making small little knives that are specialized. This one is made so it only has one angle on one side, so it doesn't have angles on both sides like this one. And I can put this up to something and I can cut along the edge. Perfect for when you're cutting into masking tape or cutting a line to copy something. Make two, one that is angled left and one that is angled right. And just, here's a little tiny knife with a Wenge handle. Wenge because I made necks out of Wenge. And I can use this to carve the round over where the headstock blends into the actual neck. Also one of those small tools that you might need to do because it's like a very short blade that fits with my thumb and lets me come in. And what's good about this is that you can actually really make tools that are custom for you. For example, that knife there. Some of you You might think, oh, that would never work for me. I don't cut my necks like that. Next thing is wood carving. You could actually just buy a knife or a couple of different kinds of knives. You know, just standard woodworker's knife. They're fairly inexpensive. Usually you don't have to pay that much for a knife. And, you know, use it until it's dull and then you can learn how to sharpen it. Perfect thing to do because sharpening tools is maybe the best skill you can have as a guitar builder, actually. It might sound silly. But then you can start doing some wood carving, and I'm going to share with you some wood carvings. Just think about the fact that like you learn how to shape wood and you learn how you need to hold things and how you need to move things. For example, here is my staff, my wizard staff. The way I made this was that I carved a piece of wood that I found that I thought had an interesting shape, and it was about moving the tools in the right direction so that the wood didn't break or got splinters. Follow the grain of the wood, follow the movement of the wood. It sounds kind of silly maybe when I say it like that, but once you get into it and you notice like how you're supposed to carve wood, it will make more sense. But that's one thing that you can learn, and just picking up a piece of wood that you found in the forest and just whittle a little bit at it and see what happens. See like what directions you can cut and what direction you can't cut, when it looks nice, when it doesn't look nice, what is easy. There's also a lot of other things that goes into it, because this is not just, you know, a project in wood carving. It's also a project in staining and finishing, and you can experiment with doing like the same thing over and over and then just finishing it in different ways. You can also make some things that you actually need, not necessarily for guitar building, but like you can carve spoons, for example. This one a friend of mine made a long time ago. Or you could do something like carve faces. This is one I did a while back just for fun. It's super relaxing and you know, enjoyable, and it's a way to get into like working with wood and shaping it and taking whatever picture you have in your head and putting it out there so that you can actually do it, because having thoughts in your head is one thing, but to make them reality means that you have to actually also like figure out how to take it out of your head. Here is a candle thing. I've forgotten the word. Oh my god, my brain's not working. That I use some wood turning to make this, and that's really cool because you can wood turn your own guitar knobs, for example, but you also learn how wood reacts. Because one thing that's really interesting about wood turning that people never really seem to talk about is that the grain is always moving. So you have one side where the grain is facing you, and one when it's facing away from you, and one when it's moving into your cutter, and then when it's moving away from your cutter. So you have all the angles of the grain facing you as it's turning. If you don't enjoy any of these things that I'm saying now, you might not actually even enjoy guitar building. Now the next thing, which I think is maybe the best thing, that or making your own tools, is actually building furniture. Because building furniture means that you have to think about a lot of things. Like, for example, if you're making a table, how do you build a table so it doesn't wobble? That can maybe seem like, yeah, you make all the legs equal in length. Yeah, well, good luck with that. It's actually kind of hard to do that. It's not just something you do. I mean, yes, it's something you do, but it's actually something you have to think about. You have to think about design. You have to think about how to make it as practical as possible, but also keep it being aesthetically pleasing. You have to think about things like making sure everything is straight, and making sure nothing is, you know, wobbling, or that anything has like weird bumps in it or anything like that. A coffee table needs to be perfectly flat. It can't be, you know, like weird, crooked or things like that. But also the top can't be, you know, like wavy. You have to learn how to plane the top perfect. I would say that it's a step up from guitar building. Like when it comes to woodworking, building furniture is harder than building a guitar. And so learning how to build furniture, making them pretty, making them look really beautiful and nice, giving them really nice finishes, things like that, is a really good way to do this. And it's a really nice way to get into it. And if you make something nice, you can give it to someone as a gift. It's an easy way to get rid of your project. Guitars are a little bit harder to get rid of than some beautiful furniture. You can also sell your furniture. So if you're building a couple of tables or stools or something simple, small, you can sell them pretty easily, you can get your money back, you can invest in more materials, and you can continue learning, and you can just build on that and build on that and build on that. And that's an easy way to get into building guitars, actually. You might think that it's not, and that I'm telling you to take the long way around, but I think you will just end up being better at things if you take the long way around. Maybe not the most fun thing, because you're like, no, I want to build a guitar now, and I want to have it in a week, and I want to play it and make music with it. But your first guitar that you build really hastily in a week might not be that enjoyable to play because of, you know, the sloppy work. So relax, take it easy, build some furniture first. The next thing, we're moving into more like getting ready to actually build a guitar maybe. But the next thing I think you can do is actually start making templates. And you most likely are going to make the templates out of something like plywood. And plywood isn't that expensive, but it's really good materials for making templates. And here you can see a template. I'm showing you the wrong side of it. There you have it. And you have to get into things like math and thinking about like making sure everything is straight and making sure that, you know, like the center lines are perfect, and that you figured out like, okay, well, here's the neck pocket going to go. That means that the bridge pickup is going to go here, which means that the bridge is going to go here. And, you know, you can figure things out and design things. You could obviously just buy templates, but I think that if you do buy templates, you are sort of shooting yourself in the foot a little bit. You're skipping a valuable opportunity to learn, basically. Not saying that it's wrong to buy templates, just saying that if you're buying templates because you can't make your own template, we have an issue. You have to think about a lot of things, like for example, making templates that are angled. This is a neck template for an angled neck in the body. That's a very simple and easy thing to do, a neck template, but then you can challenge yourself with how to make it be angled, so that when you route, you don't get a flat bottom, you get an angled body. That's a part that is very important, and it will teach you a lot about like shape and design and how to make sure everything is smooth and things like that. Because for example, one of the reasons why you want to make templates is so that you can skip having to do the work that you do in a template when you're cutting your wood. So for example, if I pull my fingers across here, I can feel that there are no bumps, there is no weird little marks or anything. Some things that, you know, you can't see, but you can feel. It's perfectly straight, it's perfectly nice, the center line will always line up. As long as I make sure that the center line I draw on my material lines up with the center line on my template, I know everything is straight because I've done the work that I need in my template to make sure it's perfect. I hope you understand what I'm trying to get at here. There are certain things that you will learn about guitar building that you can only learn if you make your own templates. Okay, so the next thing I would actually say has to do with the electronics. There are a lot of weird things going on with electronics in guitars, and there are a lot of people that think it's more complicated than it is. So looking into how different parts works and getting a sort of mind for how a guitar wiring is done is important. And the way I came over my sort of fear was actually by starting to build pedals. So I bought a couple of kits, I built a couple of pedals, I learned about soldering and wiring, and I just got better at it. So sometimes looking at the video that inspired me to do this video, because you guys seem to like that video, could be a good idea. No, but seriously, if you can build a pedal from a kit, you can wire any guitar. There isn't any guitar out there that is more complicated than, or at least not commercially available guitar. Obviously there are some people who are building in like pedals into guitars or some crazy things like that, but you know, there are no guitars basically that are more complicated in their wiring than any pedal. Like the most simple pedal has more weird parts in it than any guitar. And you can also learn a little bit about electricity by building some other things, you know, like some sort of car alarm or a flashlight or some other fun projects. Just check around and see if you find something that you're interested in building and do it. The next thing is a little bit more experimental, I would say, and some of you might not like it, but I hope you'll do it anyway, because I think it's more rewarding than you might think, and that is to play every kind of guitar that you can get your hands on. Go to your local music store or music stores and just play everything. Play a Squier Stratocaster and a Fender Stratocaster, because it's important to try to figure out what the difference is, and not just the branding part, but you know, like thing like, is the finish better? Is the finish nicer in some way, and what way is that? But also something like, okay, both these guitars have thin C shapes, but one is better, one feels nicer, one is something. And try to just figure out what it is, just like analyze things and look them over. A lot of times we talk about things like, is the neck comfortable, and like which pickups are better, but we don't actually ask ourselves, like, what do we mean when we say one neck feels better? What is it that actually makes that neck nicer? You can analyze it, you can make a note in a notebook, write everything down, be super analytic about things, but you also need to play things to understand things like, how does the body feel against your body, different designs, you know, bring different things to the table. What is awesome, what is not awesome, why do people think that this is awesome? For example, if you're the kind of person who don't like Flying V's, for example, try to figure out what it is that people that like Flying V's like about them. Talk to the staff and ask them questions. Most people will be really happy if you ask them, like, oh, well, what's your favorite guitar? And, oh, why do you like that? Oh, that's really interesting. I mean, like, it's good for you also to become friends with people that work in music stores, especially if you ever have any interest of like selling guitars. They are going to be the people that are most valuable to you. So that's a little side tip. So yeah, just play every kind of guitar you can get your hands on. Both electric and acoustic guitars, because analyzing acoustic guitars can help you fundamentally understand things like, okay, well, maybe my guitar has no sustain that I've made. Can I learn something about sustain from playing acoustic guitars and analyze that? It's really, really important to do this step, and it's downplayed a lot. And it also lets you find out what is available on the market and what's not available. It might give you some really fun and interesting ideas for experiments and weird things you can do, because at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself the question of what's the point of building guitars if you're just making something that everyone else is doing. The answer could be that it's fun, and I think that's good enough. I'm not saying that you need to have some sort of deep philosophical, you know, asking what's the meaning of life sort of thing, but you could still recognize that, hey, if I want to make guitars, they have to be their own thing in some way. And it could just be something like, for example, that you love guitars from the early 60s and you don't feel like anyone is making a good representation of what that should be, but that you feel like you can actually do it. Anyway, that's the end of this video. I hope you learned something, or that you got some food for thought, or whatever the expression is, and that you will now go out into the world and build guitars. It's a lot of fun. It's a great hobby. I really mean it. You're gonna have so much fun if you just think of it more as a journey, and not like, oh, I have to build the perfect guitar the first thing I do, but like, oh, I have to learn things, I get to experiment, I get to have fun. You're gonna have such an amazing time. I promise you, it's awesome and cool. Just like you. There are probably things that I could have said that I've forgotten, and stuff like that. So if you have any tips, write them in the comments below so that we can help each other out. Maybe you have something really cool that I need to try for myself. It's always fun. You guys are always giving me cool ideas, so I look forward to seeing whatever you write in the comments below. But that's gonna be the end of this video. Thanks so much for watching. If you're new here, please press the like and subscribe buttons down there. Ring the bell for notifications, which is something I'm never ever telling you guys to do because I'm always forgetting it, but please do. And until next time, don't forget to stay awesome and cool, and go and build some tools for guitar building, because they're way too expensive to buy, and most of them are just really super, like, ridiculously easy to make. So make some tools. If you already have every tool that you need to build guitars, then you're watching this video instead of building guitars, so shame on you. Go and build guitars.